Are live. I think there might have been a video problem at the beginning, but everybody, we are live. I see Ray's coming from Vancouver. I think we got Javier here. We got Pradeep is backstage. We've got people coming in around the world for what promises to be an amazing show today. We are talking about generative AI, how you leverage generative AI in global mobility. That is such an important subject. I mean, it is the revolution that we have all been living through over the last couple of years. It is the revolution that is going to change absolutely everything that we do over the next, days, weeks, months, years. It is our future. So it is a really, really important subject. And I would love to get your comments on everything there. A couple of things I do want to say is that what we are doing is, and this is something we started last week, we think it's really exciting, is we are doing a recast. So we will be, you can watch the show either live now, or in fact, we are going to be recasting it tomorrow. So for those of you in Asia, it'll be coming out at, well, it depends where you are in Asia, about 4, 5 p.m, 6 p.m. your time in Asia or in Australia tomorrow. So that's so exciting. We now have View from the Top live, and we have a View from the Top recast. How cool is that? So, as I said, it's an amazing show today. We're talking about leveraging generative AI in global mobility. Super excited that we've got Pradeep Prahlad from Capgemini, a real thought leader in our industry, sharing with us some of the stuff that they've been doing at Capgemini, and we're honored at Benivo to partner with them. And also we have Matt Chic from Benivo sharing some of the really cool technology. We also have our change maker for the week, which is Mick Arkins from an amazing company called Shine or Shein or Sheen. I'm not sure. Different people seem to pronounce it differently. We've got Julie Onslow Cole giving us her immigration update, and Cara Butler giving us some Benivo news. So it's a lot coming in, but you know how it works, everybody. Join in the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us who you are, where you come from, and as the conversation goes through, please share some of your thoughts, some of your comments. We really want to hear what you think about this hugely important area. Next week, we're going to be talking about, well, talent mobility, which I know is a subject a lot of us dream about, but in fact, we're super excited. We're going to be talking about how do you make that dream a reality? And we've got Azibia Gomo and Magdalena Jennings from Equinix talking about some of the really cool stuff that they are doing in their company about making global talent mobility a reality and not just a dream. Now, I know a lot of people, of course, want to get their credits. Well, we've got GMS credits, courtesy of our good friends at ERC. We've got HRCI credits, we've got Sherman credits, and they're coming in from our good friends at Rocket Mortgage. So if you'd like to get your credits, then just jot down the number that's on screen now, or you can screenshot it, or you can get your camera out, however you want to do it. Make sure you do get those numbers. Anyway, we're now going to move on to breaking news. I think I had a bit of a problem running my first video, but let's hope this video works fine. I'm going to get this video out here for our breaking news. What's been going on in the world of global mobility in the last 7 days? Okay, I'm full of transparency here. I'm having a problem running my videos my end, so Tally, my producer, is going to run the videos as we go forward. But I think that one worked all right, your end. We're now going to start talking about immigration. So we're going to go live into our immigration update. So let's run that immigration video, and we'll bring Julia onto the call to tell us about what's been going on in the wonderful world of immigration in the last 7 days. Hey Julia, how are you doing? Good to see you. And where are you today?
I'm in Riyadh.
Nice. Okay. And what are you doing out there?
Well, we had our inaugural HR Academy, HR Leaders Academy on Monday in Riyadh, and I've been was running that, and then we've been with clients and have government meetings. So it's lovely. Weather's very warm. Nothing to complain about.
Sounds good. And I know you're going to be talking about Saudi in your update. So tell us a bit about it.
Yes. So I'm just going to talk about Saudi because I'm in Saudi. And there's been quite a lot of news about some of the giga projects slowing down. But there's some really interesting statistics about, although some are slowing down, others are really taking pace. And it was really interesting at our HR leaders training to hear about some people, they're onboarding 100, 500 people a month on some of these giga projects. So it's really very busy. Huge number of companies are coming into Saudi. So I'm just going to cover 3 topics today really quickly. The first is premium residency, which a lot of people are asking about. The second is the rules on Saudiization. And then I'm going to talk about the regional headquarters initiative. So the first thing is premium residency. So the government completely revamped the scheme, the immigration scheme, and now you can have premium residency. And there's a special category which is for talent, for executives, researchers, or people in the health sciences profession. And this is causing a lot of interest because, like the golden visa, it's a self-sponsored route, an individual route. Now, unlike the golden visa, it's very strictly adjudicated, and you have to earn at least 80,000 Saudi riyals a month, which is about $20,000 US. But in addition, you've either got to be in the C-suite or an assistant to the C-suite, directly reporting to the C-suite. So you have to be fulfill both of those criteria. But if you get this visa, then it's for 5 years. You can renew it for another 5 years, and you have a route to permanent residence. And in all the work that I'm doing work with a number of governments around this region in the Middle East about how they can improve their immigration laws. And it's all about, creating pathways for people to be able to stay. That's what people really do want. In addition, you can sponsor your spouse, your children. And the good thing for companies, it has 0 impact on your Saudiization. So that's a very important thing. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 months to process it. And now moving to the second topic, which is Saudiization, things are getting stricter. So if you remember, there's 2 layers to Saudiization. The first is that your overall population, you have to have so many Saudis employed. But in addition, there is another regulation which talks about the actual professions within your organization. So as an example, consultants, they've just increased it to 40%. So regardless of your overall population, you cannot have more than 40% or who are not from Saudi. And for HR, it has to be 100% of Saudi citizens. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the Regional Headquarters Initiative. So this is the initiative of the Saudi government. It says that if you want to bid for government contracts, you have to have a regional headquarters in Saudi. This initiative is now, several months old, so we are able to talk about it more helpfully. We think there's about 300 companies that now have their regional headquarters in Saudi. You have to employ at least 15 people in those regional headquarters by the end of the first year, but they must be employed in support functions. So this has to be in addition to your other business, because these have to be support functions. And the good thing is that no one is subject to Saudiization. We are seeing that companies are visiting now and they're just making sure that everything is fine. And the other thing we're seeing is that it is very difficult on practical level to actually go for a tender if you don't have a regional headquarters. You can ask for an exemption, but it is quite cumbersome. So, people are really being driven to this. And then the final thing to say is that there is a exemption from tax for 10 years. You can have 200 to 250 people without Saudiization in your regional headquarters. And the last thing to say is that the top 3 can have the residency visa that I described at the beginning. So it's a bit of a whirlwind tour, but that's what's happening in Saudi.
And one question's come in from Richard. We'll just quickly take that one question. He's basically asked, are these visas regional, or is it on a country by country basis? And he says probably a naive, and I'll maybe add in the word hopeful question.
Great question. It's a really great question, Richard, because these visas I'm talking about are related to Saudi, but more and more people in the government are talking about more of a regionalization benefit. So it's a very, very pertinent question, because people are saying in governments in Qatar, in Saudi, in the Dubai, they're looking at options to give more regional benefits. And I think that's the way of Europe. That's the way things are heading.
Okay, well, Julia, fascinating update as ever. And I think that last point is really something to watch, the regionalization of visas potentially in the Middle East. Maybe that's years away, but it's interesting the governments are talking that way. Great question, Richard, and many thanks to you, Julia. We're now going to move on. We've got our change maker for the week. Super excited. We've got We've got Mick Arkins from Shine to join us. So let's bring on the one and only Mick Arkins.
Hey,
Nick,
how's things?
how you doing?
I am good.
Good. Now, you've actually been a guest on the show before, but back in the day when we were just a mere podcast. So
way back.
Yeah.
2019, yeah. Long time ago.
I was looking at June 2019, so this is very nearly your 5th anniversary of your first appearance on the show. But in those days, you were, I think, with Verizon from memory. So
that is right.
Tell us about who you're with. And also, I've got to say this, I mean, obviously a hugely well-known company in the fashion world, but what's the correct way of pronouncing it?
I mean, so it's Shein. I'm still guilty of calling it Shein. I joined Shein in January 2022. So I've been here 2.5 years. And I joined as the head of HR for EMEA. At the time, a couple of hundred people, 4 legal entities. Now we're coming up on scores of legal entities, and we're over 1,000 employees in various countries. So rapid growth and lots of scale.
Wow. Okay. So am I right? I think I read that you're actually the largest fashion retailer in the world.
And we one of the biggest. You know, we're an FMCG business. We're primarily fashion. It's not the only category of product we sell. So we are in a bit of a transformation where we're becoming an online marketplace. But we're definitely up there in terms of revenue compared to some of the bigger or big fashion companies out there in the world.
Okay. And what's your role there?
So head of HR for EMEA. Right now, I've got over 1,000 employees, 14 different countries. It was interesting, the segment on Saudi, because we're at the very early stages of getting set up in Riyadh at the minute. We've only got one employee there, but we're in the process of growing that up. So yeah, so HR, payroll, recruitment, and then an operational component as well to make sure we're compliant from a legal entity standpoint in all of our different employment jurisdictions.
Okay, and you're one of our change makers. So tell us a bit about your passion for technology.
So for technology, you know, even AI is interesting because we're always looking at ways to adopt more agile HR practice. You know, when you home in on things like mobility and managing various cases of mobility, one of the things I'm pretty passionate about is how you can create a more agile HR function, how you can make sure that your team members are operating in a more agile way and leveraging technology to accomplish that. I think a lot of what we do can be messy. And I think a lot of this tech just brings sanity to the world we're in. You know, mobility is a very small component, but a big component of what we do. So tech just keeps us good across all the various aspects of what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Cool. Okay. And also, as a change maker, of course, you know, you help us by giving us a little bit of advice every so often. I think it's about once a quarter on things that we're developing. But we also sort of return the favor by supporting a charity of your choice. So tell us about your chosen charity.
So I chose Outhouse because I don't have a direct connection with Outhouse, but I was inspired a couple of years ago when I was working with a nonprofit in New York City. And I came across a similar charity there that was an LGBTQ plus resource center for young people. And I guess in my experience in the US, I realized a lot of young people within that community were having difficulty accessing support. So when I came back to Dublin way back then in 2007, I wanted to kind of look out for a charity that could do something similar in Ireland. And Outhouse is that charity. They've been around since 1996. They're an advocacy group, but also a resource center. So anybody can walk in at any time. They can access services, health services, you know, all sorts of different help that they can get there. And they do phenomenal work. I mean, I personally know a couple of people that have had their life changed by having access to this type of service. So it's kind of giving that a bit of visibility and pushing that out there. I'm doing what I can to kind of promote them where I can.
Okay, that's really, really cool. So Mick, thank you so much for being on the show. We're going to get you back. We discussed this earlier. We're going to get you back at some point in the future.
Absolutely, yeah, I'd love to.
A lot about Shein and everything that's going on, and you know, I'm guessing that the business will be probably another 100% growth. You know, in the next.
Yeah, I would love to.
It's just incredible. It's been amazing having you on the show. Far too short. As I said, we will get you back for a full segment. We're now going to move on, and we're going to be bringing on to stage our Benivo reporter in terms of what the developments are in the last week. We're going to bring on Cara Butler. So everybody, please hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. So a big thank you to Michael Arkins, and welcome to the stage, Cara Butler.
Hi, Brian.
Hey,
great to see you.
And you, Cara. Now, where are you today?
I'm in Houston.
Wow.
For today. Yeah. So good.
That's pretty cool. So tell us what's going on in Benivo world. What are you going to talk to us about today?
Yeah, well, I'm going to give some updates about some of the events that we're attending in the coming weeks. So the first one I'll talk about is the FEM America Summit. It's going to be in Dallas, and I'll be there. So hope to see you if you're there. Come up and say hello. And then that's going to be on May the 22nd through the 23rd in Dallas. Then we have the Austin Relocation Council spring meeting coming up next week on May the 16th. So hope to see you there. And if you're not attending and I missed you at one of these events, you'd like to see a demo, just reach out to us and we'll get one scheduled for you. So that's it.
Cool. Well, that's really exciting. So a lot of events. I know there's also been a lot of events recently. I know there was Euro was earlier this week in Villamor in Portugal. I know ERC was, I think, yesterday in Bangalore. And I think FIDI is, I think, next week in Edinburgh. So a lot of stuff going on. It's clearly conference season.
Yes, it is.
A lot of people seeing their posts on LinkedIn or whatever. We're having a fabulous time out at Euro and at ERC, and no doubt they will have a fabulous time out at FEM and at the Austin Relocation Council. So Christina said that, what she said, cannot wait to see Cara Butler in Dallas. Yeah, we're having a Women of Global Mobility event in Dallas on the 27th. Yeah, shout out to that. So anybody who wants to know about Women of Global Mobility event in Dallas on the 22nd, then do reach out to Christina, and let's give that a plug too. Okay, and Rob is going to be out there. Clay's going to be out there. So loads of people are coming to Dallas. It's going to be a great event. Of course, there's the Emma's Awards in the evening as well. And good luck to everybody who is up for an Emma Award. Okay, so we're now going to move on, and we're going to be going into our main discussion. So we're going to be talking about leveraging generative AI, GenAI in global mobility. And I'm super excited that to join our discussion, we've got Pradeep Setlur, one of the thought leaders of our industry from Capgemini, and our very own Matt Chic. So everybody, hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, say a big thank you to Cara and a big welcome to Pradeep and to Matt. And let's run that video.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Pradeep. Pradeep, you're on mute. We just need to come off mute.
Hello, Brian.
Great to see you both. So, I mean, who would have thought, a couple of years ago, we were talking about generative AI. I expect none of us would have actually really known what the phrase even meant. So the world has moved so far. So let's maybe start with a bit of definitions. Pradeep, what is Gen AI?
Firstly, I thank you for having me on this session, Brian. And I should say that the kind of passion you show in doing this week on week and month on month, amazing. Hats off. I think this is great. Some great platforms that you bring in, which helps the mobility organizations. Thanks to you and your team, right? Tally and others as well, right? So great. So I think, look, I signed up for today because the topic was extremely obviously interesting for everybody. AI and Gen AI, right? So if you think about it, artificial intelligence was there years ago, right? It's not new. It's there, and it was, plainly speaking, it was more of a B2B type of a thing, right? Because if you look at it, IBM started Watson in the late 90s, early 2000s, and things like that. But about a year and a half ago, as we all know, when the ChatGPT integration happened with AI, that's where it almost became accessible to everybody, right? So that's where it kind of exploded, and people started leveraging that. So it almost became like a B2C, right? If I can use that terminology plainly, right? So I think that's where it kind of imploded, and I would say three things from that point of view. I guess everybody today is talking about it. Organizations, whether it is businesses, whether it is any type of businesses, any type of sectors, are obviously looking at GenAI and investment in GenAI, in terms of how they would want to leverage. Secondly, I think organizations within are also looking at how they can leverage AI to kind of make it more, as one of your previous guests was saying, how make it more agile and make it more, easy accessible information to our employees. And at a third level, I think by leveraging some of these, how we can then move up the scale, right? In terms of providing values to our organizations, to assignees, and so on and so forth in a mobilities landscape, right? So I think those are the three, I would say, components of this. But I think today's topic, to me personally, is very much, I'm very much passionate about this and very, very focused on this. And then just that, Brian and Matt, in 2024, as we kickstarted our 2024, we have made leveraging AI as one of our 2024 priority within mobility function. Right? It's so important for us. And so we started off a bit, but I think the journey is evolving. It's kind of going through phases. I would say that the pilot phase, the phase one, is where we are today as we stand, and I can share some of that with you folks. But to me,
we'll certainly get into that. I mean, this is really important. How at Capgemini, AI is becoming part of your DNA, isn't it? It's something that you are passionate about, and I'm hearing the passion. I mean, but I think there might be different views elsewhere. I do want to ask the question to the audience. I'm going to ask the audience this question: how do you feel about the explosive growth of GenAI in the workplace? And I'll give you three choices. Okay, do you feel confused? Do you feel excited? Or do you feel fearful? I suppose you could say all three, or indeed you could say none of the above. But in the audience, let us know what you think. How do you feel about this growth of GenAI? It may be something that hasn't actually impacted you. I mean, clearly, from Pradeep, from your point of view, it's right front and center of mind. But tell me, I mean, Matt, let's bring you into the conversation. I mean, how do you feel about this growth of GenAI in the workplace?
I mean, on a personal level, I am incredibly excited for it. I think it is going to be the biggest revolution that anyone midstream in their professional careers has experienced, except potentially those who were really working at the forefront of mobile, or even those who are already working when the internet was a piece of wireless technology. But especially in HR profession, the opportunity able to just simply do so much more at such a higher quality.
I think, Matt, I think we're losing some of your sound here. I think we're having a bit of a problem. Maybe, Tally, you could just link in with Matt just to check on that sound. But I was getting a bit of sound interference, I'm afraid, from your microphone. But let's just carry on as Matt fixes his microphone there. I mean, Pradeep, we said it was, I know you're very excited, but actually I'm going to share something which has put me in the confused camp and the all three camp, and it's nothing to do with mobility. We were chatting it in the green room earlier. But if you get a moment, Google something you haven't already looked at it called grief tech. Grief, as in grief. Because what people are developing now is technology that can read your WhatsApp messages with a loved one, so that in years to come, let's say it's a grandparent, after they've passed, you can continue having a conversation with someone who is then deceased, and it'll respond as they would have responded, or as it thinks they would have responded. So in this crazy world, you could maybe ask a deceased grandparent about a new job you're going for, or some other question you might have. And they're saying that that will not just be by text, that will by avatars, and you'll actually see them speaking in their voice. So I mean, the world is incredibly different, and that to me creates all sorts of. Kamal said they're excited with caution. It creates all sorts of issues in terms of how people responded to the poll. 2/3 of you were excited, 20% were fearful, and 13% were confused. But let's move on now and get into Capgemini, because I know you've been doing some amazing things. So do tell us at Capgemini, tell us about how you guys use mobility AI.
Yeah, sure, Brian. And I saw your responses to your questions, and then I think it was a good mix of, of the responses. I see some of them are still fearful, but look, I think, I mean, we started the journey. I would say mid of Q3 of last year, so to speak, right? So when we started looking at one piece of our processes or one piece of our offerings, which is primarily the help desk, right? So we have a large number of workforce who are on visa status and on the mobility programs in North America, for example. And then what we do is a large number of these folks have to go through their immigration processes from time to time, right? So we have a help desk setup, and which is manned by people who are subject matter experts who man this regularly and then kind of respond back within a specific time frames and things like that. And then on average, I guess we get about 1,000 to 1,200 inquiries every month, right? So in a year,
let's just say that again. Say that slowly. You get about 2,000
about 1,000 to 1,200, 11,000 to 1,200 every month.
Wow.
Inquiries
every month. Okay.
Yeah.
And what sort of questions are they asking?
So it kind of starts from very basic, Brian, in the sense, hey, when I need to start my visa extension process, right? L1 visa extension process. So what's the process to be followed? As basic as that to, let's say, my location has changed, right? I'm moving from X to Y location. So what should I do with my H1B visa? So things like that. And then also specific personal, which is we categorize as level 3, which is more personal, right? So I am going through this. So what should I need to do for my specific requirements, my spouse requirements, so on and so forth. So we kind of bucket them into level 1, level 2, and level 3 inquiries, right? So when we started out this journey, some of our folks were being brought together, and then what we realized is there's this tons of level 1, level 2 inquiries, right, which is happening, which was pretty much, I would say, almost like a cut and paste, if I can use that terminology, right? So it's pretty straightforward responses. But then since we were not technologically advanced in that space, our help desk agents had to kind of respond to that, right? So they as per their SLAs. So we looked at it, and then we said, why can't we look at leveraging the chatbot? So we have within Capgemini, we have the chatbot investment, which is already on. So we said, why can't we use the existing chatbots that we have as Cadem, and then kind of feed some of these questions and contents to that, and let's test it out. So that's how we started. So it was very fundamental way of leveraging AI, right? So we did that for one business unit way back in mid of Q3 time frames last year, and then we deployed that. So we deployed that for that business unit, and the teams were pretty happy because in that pilot period, we saw close to about 600 inquiries being answered through this chatbot, right?
Wow.
So that was a huge success that we got. And then we said, okay, why then we make it formal, right? So we kind of expanded the program. And from January onwards, we said, let's include all other business units and a couple of more additional topics, right? And then over a period of 6 months, 5 to 6 months, so to speak, that this is on, the chatbot, Brian, has answered close to 1,200 inquiries on its own.
Wow. Okay. So what we're getting, and this is an immigration chatbot that is handling 1,200 immigration questions without manual intervention. And clearly, that's not a big step to move from then to asking policy questions or tax questions, which brings us, I think, a bit onto some of the stuff, Matt, that we've got with Benivo GPT. And maybe you could just talk a little bit about that. And good to have you back, Matt.
I'm back, freshly connected, restarted everything, so I hope the sound is loud and clear and no glitches from here. Yeah, it's a good segue. I was saying just from a personal perspective, incredibly excited for the increases in productivity that can happen in the workplace, and I think that really applies to every individual, almost no matter what their role. There's kind of one stream of talk and subject matter exploration about AI in terms of taking jobs. But I think the bigger and much more interesting one is actually how much more you can accomplish if you have an amazing assistant at your fingertips. And that amazing assistant, who is a global mobility expert, is the capability that we are starting to explore bringing live to clients on the Benivo platform today. And so as we have Pradeep with us today, I thought it would be appropriate, and with Pradeep's permission, to actually show the beta version live on Capgemini for a little bit of an exploration of how such a tool could actually help me be more effective and get more done in my role as a mobility manager.
Okay, so I think it's really important to sort of point out that this is real technology that is really there, and as Pradeep has said with the Ask Adam, it's dealing with real questions now. So this is not science fiction. This is not stuff that is vapor. This is actually happening right now, and it'll be interesting to know how many other companies out there who are watching our show are doing something similar. Because my guess is if you're not now, you will be in 6, 12, 18, 24 months. This is the future. So I'll bring this up, Matt. Okay, so tell us what we're looking at here.
All right, so as Pradeep was talking about the AI implementation that they have that is kind of relocating or immigration employee facing. So I'm an employee. I have an immigration process. I need my questions answered. This is a rollout of a GPT-4 powered AI assistant that is for the mobility manager. So this is not yet for the relocating employee, though we certainly have an actively growing list of ideas and very easy to envision the use cases about how relocating employees, in the same discussion that you guys were just having. It was, you have a bot like Ask Adam that is very specialized in immigration today. But if you keep expanding the use cases for which it can be used and the queries that it can help you with, then it can be more and more generally useful to you as the relocating employee. But this one today, right now, is for I think appropriately a beta product. We are rolling this out, experimenting with clients, but it is live, as you say, Brian. It is not.
What I'm seeing now is pretty much a sort of like a blank screen ready for questions. So why don't we go on and let's test it and see what we can do.
All right. Well, so let's explore a few use cases of how I can use this. So one is I actually I have a lot to do on the Benivo platform to manage the program. And so why don't I actually get the instructions from the technology about how to do that? So I've got some questions copied here, so you don't have to watch me type. But first, we're going to ask it, how do I initiate an employee on the Benivo platform? Because maybe I watched the training, but I want to refresh myself on exactly how to do it. And bam, now I have the generative AI that has just written out all of the step-by-step instructions for me about, once logged in, you go to the people section, which we're not going to click here today because this is a live platform. and then I follow the steps to actually to get that employee initiated. All right, so let's go a little bit farther down in the process. Why don't we say, okay, now I've got an employee initiated. Now I need to run a cost estimate. And so you can see that this is not a bot that is just retrieving answers from an FAQ. This is a bot that is interacting using GPT technology with data that we have trained it on to be able to understand the question and generate a response. So it is writing the response to the question. So now we just got a printout of our instructions to actually run the cost estimate. So first, you're on the Benivo platform, navigate over to cost estimates. We have them right up here, and follow steps 3, 4, and 5. And again, it's a live platform, so we're not going to go into the platform itself. But so I just got the manual on how to initiate an employee, how to run a cost estimate. But now maybe I'm also getting some chats on the on my company chat on Teams or Slack or whatever you use about this employee that someone's thinking about moving, and they're saying, hey, it's this guy's a U.S. citizen. I want him to go to work in Switzerland. What do I need to do? Do I need to, what's the time for applying for a work permit? And so here we are going to see the results from Benivo training the bot specifically on immigration rule sets and immigration content. These are all things that are publicly available, but we do specifically point the bot at the resources so that it can use the resources to write the answer. So as you can see here, it says, based on the documents, sorry about that, based on the provided documents, as a U.S. citizen, you may work in Switzerland for up to 8 days in a calendar year without a permit under certain conditions, known as the 8-day rule. And then it goes on to explain the 8-day rule. I'm sure there's many people in the audience who are experts on the 8-day rule, but might not always be the case for every global mobility manager, maybe when they're first having their coffee in the morning. So if they're getting the question from an HRBP, now they have, they don't have to pick up the phone. They don't have to write an email. They don't have to go try to dig through documentation themselves. They can just right here in the tool where they're already managing the program, get help from an AI assistant. And I'll give one more quick example of another thing that I'm sure every global mobility manager has faced at some point in their career, which is to explain to a colleague what is tax equalization. And so why have to reinvent the wheel? You can just have AI technology write the answer for you. And if you've gotten the same email asking with, what is tax equalization? Why do we have to do it like this? Let's get the machine to create the perfect answer for you. And
one question that's come in, Matt, I'll just take that whilst we're before we move on. How often is this information updated?
Good. In terms of the data that we are training it on?
Yeah.
I think,
for example, in fact, Michelle said, for example, if the rule changes, what prompts the update for your inquiries? Take that Switzerland example, for example.
If the rule changes, oh, I see. Right. So, I think to give the official Benivo answer, I think I would be best. I would be smart to go and talk with colleagues to know exactly the frequency that we're doing here. But I think that there is. I mean, we're basically constantly adding to a document repository on different topics, and so how we would work with the bot to either to demonstrate, like to tell you actually when I was last updated, or what the documents are that I'm referencing. I think we do have a few different options there on settings, but whoever asked that, sorry, I missed it in the pop-up. But please get in touch with me directly. I'll speak with the colleagues and we'll get the answer to you.
Yeah. And another question that's come in, which is interesting, is how can this technology handle a question when the person uses the wrong technology? One thing I would say of that I find very interesting using this technology, and that was Carol's question, is that sometimes I ask a question of it and then I don't get quite the right answer, and I ask the question a different way to get a bit more information about it. But one thing I tend to do at the very end of asking my questions to GPT, when I've got the answer, is I then say, how should I have asked the question better in the first place to get this answer? And it will actually then tell you how to answer that question. So I mean, in a way, the whole question of how to prompt the technology is a skill I think that we will all learn. So Pradeep, what's been your experience with this?
I think just to add to what you're saying, Brian, right? I mean, look, I think this is, like I said, it's evolving, right? So you have to, it's a lot of trial and error, so to speak. One, it depends on the content that, it's there, and it's reading out and learning from the contents. And also, if it is specific from an organization standpoint, right, it depends on what you're feeding, because it's not integrated directly to outside world, right? So it depends on what you're feeding, what's the frequency of your whatever, right, content you're feeding, etc., right? So it's a kind of a measured one, like I said, but it's a journey it's an evolving journey. So it's a lot of, at this point in time when we deployed the pilot, I still remember there's a lot of trial and error, right? So that the users were asking questions differently, and they were getting an answer which they were not happy with. Then they were starting to learn themselves to ask the right questions, or maybe, like you said, tweak the questions a bit. So it's all that. I think it's an interesting journey from that point of view. And like what Matt was showing, right? It's some amazing stuff going on as well, right? From a mobility ChatGPT standpoint. I think these are all opportunities for organizations to challenge the way we work. And I think I saw in your response, some 13% of them said fearful. And I want to tell those 13% of the people that let's not be fearful, because we have to be proactive. We have to leverage this to our advantage. And I can talk about it, a few examples that we can do as a part of the show as well in the next session, Brian, in terms of the speed of landing, the metrics that we want to do, etc. Right? So I would say leverage it. Don't wait for it to happen, because eventually, if you don't work on it, it will be a top-down. And when it becomes a top-down, then we have no other choice than to start looking tactically, right? Looking at it as from a tactical measure, right? Okay, if I do this, how many headcounts I can take off? If I do that, blah, blah, blah. So you want to avoid all that. So try to be proactive, try to be ahead of the all these stuff, so that you are in a driver's seat.
Absolutely. And I want to pick up on a point that Richard made in the comments. And I know there's also a response to it from Cara as well. But just taking Richard's point, I'd like to add some of my own thoughts on that. He says, I think there should be a distinction between questions answered and satisfied clients. I still think service needs to be human. Shoot me down, happy face. Well, I mean, I think from my point of view, and I think this is what Pradeep and Matt were saying, is the way to treat the technology is, it's like you've got the best assistant, the best personal assistant in the world ever. It's not very perfect, but it's freeing you up so you can do a lot. So actually, the dream in all this is to have high tech and high touch. This is not an and or. This is not an or discussion. This is an and discussion. And the model therefore allows you to not choose one over the other, but to use the high tech to support you. And it's all a question of working smart. I mean, there's an old saying, which is you can either work hard or you can work smart. And if you're smart, you'll work smart. And maybe I can bring, Matt and Pradeep back in the conversation, but how do we define, if you like, smart mobility? How can technology make us smarter? Matt, do you want to kick off on that, and then we'll go to Pradeep?
Absolutely. How can technology make us smarter?
And I think you had some things you wanted to show as well. If I'm wrong.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think the kind of the next illustration of where we're going with this technology is a really good illustration of the blend of high tech and high touch. And I think we couldn't agree more that it's just what Pradeep was saying. It's not about a replace and do less. It is about add capabilities and be able to do so much more, so much better. And so, Brad, I believe I've got the screen shared. Maybe you can show it on the.
Yeah, pull that up. Here we go. So what are we looking at?
So here, now I took the screen down earlier because I moved off of the Capgemini platform, and now we're onto our demo platform, which show followers have seen before. But I wanted to point one thing out, and then I wanted to kind of show show where we're going. So we've got the idea of the assistant now live on the platform. We also just released, and we'll probably do some more on this, a new feature called Tickets, which is a great piece of process management capability now added to the platform. It structures everything that comes in that needs to be handled by either the relocation consultant or the management or the case managers. A query, a platform incident, and so forth. And so what I wanted to first, I wanted to just illustrate that is now live. It's a recent update that we've gotten onto the platform. And now let's take a look at some of the ideas for how we can use in the future. This part is now getting into in the future. The assistant capabilities on all of this content. So we have everything that's happening in the mobility program. And all the things that need to be managed are living in one place that an AI assistant can interact with. So for one, I can quickly, this is an idea of clicking on some insights and getting data insights on my program. But most importantly here, I can actually use it to help me deliver better service, right? So I'm in charge ultimately of this assignee's experience. And I see here, using the AI assistant in the background, that there's a case that requires my attention. The AI, rather than me having to spend my brain power and my time figuring out what's happening, I get a quick summary. Here are the key points. The AI assistant has actually summarized the issue for me. So now I have that summary in front of me, and I can start getting into providing service and delivering a solution, right? So I can, through ideally one place, have all of our communications in addition to the messaging that we also now have live. Bring in the ability to make phone calls, to do multi-party communications, solve the issue, but then be able to work way more efficiently by having an AI assistant summarize the conversation that we all just had, and print that summary into the ticket, do the work for me of actually writing the update. And so for me as a case manager, this is at least making me 2, 3, 5 times more effective at actually handling this issue right here and there. And you could see in it the vision for the blend of the AI assistant, making it possible for me to do a much better customer service job a lot faster.
Cool. One question I wanted to ask, maybe I'll take that off screen now. We were talking about this earlier. I'd like to ask Pradeep about it. We talk about things like cost estimates, and I know there's all sorts of smart customer estimates, but I want to know that one of the things that you're very focused in on, and there's the challenge you were setting us earlier, is speed to landing. Tell us a bit about that concept and what you're thinking, where the future might be in that regard, because that's a really novel concept.
Yeah, I kind of, like I said, right? So to your earlier question, how can we be more smart in what is smart mobility all about, right? I think by leveraging, right, what we've been talking about, by leveraging technology, the digital tools, which Benivo has, for example, amazing. I mean, Benivo is our strategic partners in our mobility program, and they have amazing digital programs. And also leveraging AI, I think what you can then do is you can kind of elevate your workforce, upskill your workforce to do some high-level jobs, strategic jobs, analytical jobs, for example. And one of the things that I am very close and very passionate about is how do we test your success of your programs? One is, of course, the employee experience. That's obviously everybody does that. The second aspect is as critical as employee experience is the speed of landing, right? So when I say speed of landing, what I mean is, right, so you have your top country pairs, right? And then you say, based on your averages, you say country A to country B to land somebody through an end-to-end program, it is taking, let's say, 89 days, right? With all the technologies, all the enhancements, all the digital enablements, right? And leveraging AI, how can we then make it more effective or make it leaner, right? So how can we make it, let's say if you go from 89 to come down to 80 days, will that be possible? How are we measuring the success of that? Because if you think about it, 7 out of 10 assignees who come on an assignment are actually coming to work on a client project, right? On a commercial project. So for them, for the business leaders, landing them in the host country is utmost importance. Right? It's as of yesterday they want people, right? So if you're able to showcase that, look, it used to take 89 days. Now with all the things that I put in place, it's now taking 80 days. There's a 9 days, so benefit that then we can showcase in terms of 9 days of revenues to the organization, 9 days of billing opportunities for the employees, right? So on and so forth. So that's elevating. That's being smart, right? So that's elevating our value outcomes to the business teams. So that's why I said these are critical to test, and to do that effectively, we need technology. So we need the engine behind doing all this. So that's why I was in my chat with you folks, with Matt, Nitzan, and Tali, and you guys a few weeks ago. I said, look, you guys are technology disruptors in this industry. Why don't you do something on those lines? So that's where it all started.
Well, that's the challenge. Well, I'm conscious of time here. We're getting towards the end of our hour, but the way I look at it, and I just love what the idea you're talking about, is that everybody does, or most people do, a cost estimate. How many people do a speed estimate? So not just how much will it cost to get somebody from country A to country B, but how quickly can we do it? And in the same way, then you can then do what ifs, and we do that with our smart cost estimates. Can you do what ifs with your speed estimates and make the whole process more efficient? And I think that is the sort of the out of the box thinking that certainly we really enjoy in our partnership with you, Pradeep, and with everybody at Capgemini, in terms of challenge us and getting that sort of out of the box thinking. And that's the sort of stuff that, my guess is we'll be looking in a couple of years' time and thinking, why didn't everybody do this before? I mean, it's such a, it's going to be a cool idea. Maybe that is part of the future. But one of the things we know about technology is that we don't know what it's going to do next. I mean, the speed of change is remarkable. And some of the things that we're talking about as being slightly novel and innovative, I'm sure we're going to be old hat within a year or so. And then we're going to be going on to even newer stuff. I saw Richard Majewski posted, this has just reminded me to take my blood pressure tablet. So I hope that we haven't stressed you out too much, Richard. But all I can say to you is that if anyone's nervous of change, then sorry, it's just going to there's just going to be more change coming. That's the way the world is going. Let me just bring back our guests. We've got Nick Harkins from Sheen. We've got Cara Butler from Benivo. We've got our good friend Julia Onslow-Cole, and of course our wonderful producer Tali, who's always wonderful, but has been more wonderful than ever this week as I was having tech problems running some of my videos. It is now
Pradeep, I love the challenge. I think we have a show set. Brian, I don't think it will take us 2 years.
No,
I don't know if
exactly.
Nitzan is in the audience.
What I meant is, in 2 years' time, it'll be old hat, and we'll be thinking,
Correct.
We'll be thinking, why didn't we do that? That was so sort of, how could even people be thinking that was novel? So anyway, as Tara says, ciao, good day, good night. This, of course, has been The View from the Top. We'll be back tomorrow morning for our recast, and next week we'll be back with the wonderful Azibi Agomo and Magdalena Jennings, when we're going to be talking about global talent mobility, making the dream a reality. My name is Brian Friedman. I've been your host on The View from the Top. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you all again this time next week. Take care, everybody, and have a great, great week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.